Start. Okay. Wilderness Safaris, which is a conversation for a different time, developed this booking platform called iTravel that we use to make beautiful video itineraries and facilitate booking for our agent partners. And I'm just going to use iTravel to start. I'm going to play the video of the first itinerary. It's about 2.5, 3 minutes long, and then I'm going to speak about it in a PowerPoint. All right. So let me go here. Oh, you can all see my whole desktop. Wow, I get really emotional when I see videos of lions and elephants. Anyways, all right, so let's get started. I just want to begin by talking to you guys about why we did this partnership with White Desert. When we do partnerships, we think a lot about shared values and making sure that conservation is at the core of every single partnership, because that's obviously at the core of what we've done for several decades. So you all know wilderness safaris is not just luxury tourism, it's conservation tourism. Our purpose is to expand the amount of land that we can protect by using ecotourism. And as I'm sure a lot of you understand, a big part of protecting wildlife and protecting land is creating jobs for local communities, because you can't expect people to protect an area that they feel economically excluded from. So that's how our conservation tourism model works. White Desert is very different. There are no communities around their properties, but they're contributing to conservation in a lot of different ways. Most importantly, the area that they operate is completely impossible to bring in scientists or people to do research without using these private planes. There's no other way, and it's too expensive for governments to fund research on the Arctic shelf. So with every plane of guests that comes, they also bring in scientists and researchers that do that really critical research on these otherwise information bereft areas, right? Something else that's very important is that they are carbon neutral. We've had a lot of questions saying, how can you make a partnership with a company that takes private planes? It's so bad for the environment. Not the way that they do it. They've been carbon neutral since 2007 with the activities they take to offset it, like what I just explained. And in the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to have completely clean fuel, which is really an enormous undertaking. And then the camps, like wilderness safaris camps, if one day the government says you have to go, no more camps, they can remove them and there is no trace and there is no damage. And it's the same thing with their waste management. Everything people use, everything they eat, all the garbage from every one of the trips, it leaves Antarctica. It gets right back on the plane. So we really have those same core values of conservation and research and sustainability at the core of the company. So the partnership made a lot of sense. So the video that you just watched is called Legendary Landscapes. It's the first itinerary. We have beautiful PDFs of each of the trips, which Maria Alice will send you afterwards, translated in Portuguese. I took some parts of it just so that you guys could have a snapshot about what it looks like. So the first itinerary, it begins November 22nd of this year. You spend 2 days in Cape Town. The reason you have to spend 48 hours in Cape Town is for a few reasons. First of all, you're going to have a safety briefing. Someone from the White Desert office, maybe even the owner himself, is going to come and talk to you about the trip, give you an outline of what activities will be.
Então, o ponto é que está andando mais rápido. Isso é bom. A gente chegou com a API da Carnival, chegou o contrato ontem, mandaram.
Oh, sorry, I think someone was on the phone. I thought they were talking to me. That's fine. So there's a 2-day safety briefing. During that time, someone from the team is also going to look in your client's suitcases, making sure they have everything they need. Because if you go without the right pants or jackets or the shoes, you're in a little bit of trouble. So they're going to check for you, and they have a full shop. They bring it to the Cape Grace. So if there's something your client needs, they can buy it right there, and it's all the perfect stuff. Another reason you have to spend 2 days in Cape Town is because to fly into Antarctica, you saw that, you see here in the bottom left corner, these private ice runways. It has to be perfect conditions. So maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning, you get a phone call in your room in Cape Town and they say, we're going. So there has to be that kind of flexibility to depart at any time of day. So the main proposition of this first trip is the most incredible experience. You take a 2.5-hour flight on a small plane to an area called Atka Bay. You get completely exclusive access, just the group of 12, to penguins. And this time, early in November, and even with the December trip, they're giving birth. So the mothers lay their eggs with the fathers, and the mothers go and hunt all winter. And then they come back and you watch. And we've had 100% success rate, with having guests watch these baby chicks step off their parents' feet for the very first time. It's absolutely incredible. And it's just your group of 12. And these photos were all taken very up close by photographers that were there with White Desert, because these penguins are very curious. They're unafraid, so they get pretty close. So it's an amazing photographic opportunity. I mean, oh, okay. Now, so that will be 1 full day of the 4 days in Antarctica. The other 3 days, there's no set itinerary. For the 12 people, there are 3 guides. So maybe one group is less athletic, one group is more athletic, another group is in the middle. There's lots of things you can choose to do. Something I think is really cool is you can take a scenic flight on a small airplane and go above the polar plateau and take beautiful photos. If you're really adventurous, you can camp out by a glacier. I wouldn't do that. I want to go back to my tent that's nice and warm. You can go for a gourmet picnic. You can go ice climbing. And I spoke to them, you actually don't have to be extremely athletic to do this. You can just go a small distance or you can go all the way up. They take you to different places based on your level of athleticism. You can hike mountains, you can go bike riding. I've never heard of this called a ski-doo. It looks like a jet ski on the snow. Or you can go skiing. So there's so much that you can do. Another really amazing image that I should have included is these ice tunnels. There was a video of it actually in the itinerary where you go walking for the day inside these ice tunnels. So there are things to do for various levels of fitness, basically, okay? Which is really great. Because of the nature of these adventures and the temperature, they do not recommend children under the age of 12. But if your client has a child who's 10 or 11 and they're super athletic and the parents think they can do this, the owner will have a conversation with the family and sort that out. Yes, Maria Alice.
Gabi, and all these activities are included?
Yes, everything is included. It's like going to our safari camps.
Okay.
Your food, your beverages, your activity, everything is included. All right. And just for you to see, this camp was just launched. No one has stayed there yet. It's absolutely brand new and it's really beautiful. And these are just some photos of the inside. The PDF document that Maria Alice will send you has a lot of these photos as well, but I just wanted you to be able to understand how great the experience is going to be. And then you go back to Cape Town on that private plane, the same one that you came, and they pick up the next group, and you spend 2 more days at the Cape Grace in the same hotel. So you can leave all of your safari things there before you go to Antarctica. You go, you pick up your things, and you fly to Botswana. You can fly commercially. If you don't want to fly on a commercial flight to Botswana, you can speak to us and we will organize a private plane for you. And that's not a problem at all. Once you're in Botswana, you will fly the private wilderness aircraft to the camps and to the next camp and back to the main airport in Botswana. So once you arrive in the country, everything is taken care of, all included in the prices. So the first camp, as you saw in the video, is Vumbra Plains. This is my favorite camp. There's a sunken living room. You walk down into the living room and it feels like you're walking into the Okavango Delta. It's really super magical. There are only 7 suites in Vumbra South Camp, and then right next door is Vumbra North, where there are another 7 suites. So it's very small, very quiet, very private. Private swimming pools on each deck, as well as larger communal areas. And Wilderness Safaris only puts 4 people on a vehicle. And that's really great. And an extra value add from doing this itinerary is that we're including a private photographic guide for your guests. So he will alternate between the different groups and the different vehicles and take photos of you and your family on safari and teach you how to use the really nice Olympus cameras that we have in camp. So it just makes it a really great photographic experience. And I'm not sure how much you all know about the format of these camps, but all of these camps sit in enormous private concessions. So when you're viewing an animal, it's going to be you and maybe 1 or 2 other Wilderness Safaris vehicles. True luxury is exclusivity and space. And that's exactly what is being offered here. And then you'll be there for 3 nights, and then you'll take a very short flight over to Dumatau. This is in the Linyati concession, which sits in a really critical wildlife corridor. So lots of elephants, lots of predators, amazing place. And it was this was actually rebuilt and reopened just a couple of months ago. Ollie can correct me if I'm mistaken. So it's brand new, very fabulous, same size as one of the Vumbra camps, Vumbra South or Vumbra North. Private plunge pools, large communal area, beautiful boma sitting area in the evenings, very luxurious spa, everything. And this includes everything except for spa treatments and any shopping you might do and any super premium champagne. But just so you understand, the price tag is also all inclusive with these trips too.
Can I interrupt you again?
Of course, of course.
Só para alinhar direitinho, essa viagem, a Simone perguntou, eu acho que é importante a pergunta dela. Sim, a Antártica está aberta para os brasileiros, a questão é, via Argentina, Ushuaia, ainda não. Porém, aqui é importante reforçar que é via Cape Town. Então, via Cape Town, sim, os brasileiros podem entrar em Johannesburg, os brasileiros podem entrar em Botsuana, então eu acho bem importante reforçar isso. sobre os camps da Wilderness Safaris, toda a privacidade, exclusividade, e vocês devem se perguntar por que dentro de mais de 20 camps que a Wilderness tem em Botsuana, por que eles e por que dessa forma? Bom, essa combinação, eu sempre falo de combinação em Botsuana, o quão é importante a gente combinar áreas certas na mesma viagem, porque o brasileiro, a gente tem aves lindas no Brasil, então a gente não é birdwatching na maioria das vezes, a gente quer ver o leão, a gente quer ver o elefante, o leopardo, então aqui a gente está combinando o Okavango Delta, o Vumbura Plains, então você vai ter diversidade, você vai ter mocoro, você vai ter predadores, e a gente está combinando com o do Matal, que fica numa área, numa concessão exclusiva da Wilderness Safaris, no Linhante, do ladinho do rio, como vocês podem ver, né? Então, a gente tem que lembrar que água é onde os animais querem estar próximos, né? Porque a água é vida. Então, aí a gente vai ter uma perspectiva diferente de Botsuana, a gente vai ter aqueles sunsets nos boats, com os drinks, é uma área onde vocês vão ver muitos elefantes, e é divisa com o Chobe National Park. Então, só para fazer um parênteses e entender o porquê dessa combinação em Botsuana. Thank you, Gabi.
De nada. Before we go on to the second itinerary, are there any questions that people might want answered now before we move on?
Se alguém tiver alguma pergunta antes da gente ir para o próximo roteiro, porque esse foi o roteiro que a gente apresentou com White Desert e Botsuana, que é um roteiro mais curto. Criança a partir de 12 anos, porém, se tiver alguma criança de 11 ou de 10 anos, que os pais se responsabilizem e que são crianças que estão adaptadas, aí, acostumadas aí a atividades e viagens mais de aventura, é uma questão de conversar e verificar isso, mas a partir de 12 anos, com certeza. Gabi, I have another question. I have one question for you. About COVID-19, how will be the protocols and the procedures for the guests for these trips?
Well, look, we'll have to find out at that time what it looks like, but I know that it's definitely, we've been having clients come in and out of South Africa all the time. Before you get to South Africa, you have to have a COVID test and to depart. When you come in, you can get the COVID test in Cape Town. For this trip, we can get people to come to the Cape Grace Hotel to do it before Antarctica. And when they come back, and before you go to Botswana, you need another COVID test. So we'll organize the same format. It can be done at the hotel, surely. And then when they depart Botswana, they will get someone to come in a plane and COVID test them at the camp, so that within 72 hours, so they can then go back to Cape Town, they have the test and they can go home. So we will facilitate the COVID testing just the same way we've been doing very successfully as a lot of our clients go to Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa.
Ok, thank you. E a outra pergunta que estão fazendo, 12 anos para Antártica e Botsuana, na verdade, Simone, esse é um programa fechado, então é um programa que tem White Desert, que é para Antártica, no lodge da White Desert, que eles lançaram agora, com Botsuana, nos lodges da Wilderness Safaris. Nesse programa, que é um combinado disso, que tem data de saída, sim, a idade mínima é 12 anos. Se os seus clientes forem fazer uma viagem para a África, em Botsuana só, com a Wilderness Safaris, montando um outro roteiro, a idade mínima, 6 anos. Tá?
Eu fiz meu primeiro safari com 6 anos e it changed my entire life. Então,
I took my boys with 6 years old and they love it too.
Yeah.
Se fizer Cape Town na volta para o Brasil, o brasileiro tem que fazer quarentena na chegada, correto? Recebi ontem essa informação. I don't know.
Look, here's the thing. I know that it might be challenging to get to Brazilians on this trip now. I hope it's not. I hope it can happen. But this partnership is much more than this year. We're going to, hopefully, we're definitely doing an itinerary next year because White Desert is opening another camp called Camp Echo that they don't have photos and assets of yet. that we're going to do joint itineraries with. And the idea is we'll do a couple of these every year. And something else to keep in mind is if the dates that you want to go don't work with your schedule, for example, if the Antarctica dates are good, but you need to be back earlier, the Africa part of this trip is flexible. You can go to Botswana or Namibia before you go to Antarctica. The only thing to keep in mind is that if you don't do the itinerary on these specific dates, you lose the photographic guide because he'll be with the rest of the group. So in that sense, these trips are a little bit FIT. The White Desert dates are set, but the Africa dates are very, very much flexible per client, if that's helpful.
Uhum. Sobre a quarentena, eu acabei, a minha querida parceira Cris, a Loura da estação, me mandou que a Anvisa realmente determinou que todo mundo que estiver no Reino Unido, Irlanda do Norte, África do Sul e Índia, nos últimos 14 dias, deverão cumprir quarentena obrigatória de 14 dias a partir da data de chegada no Brasil, no mesmo local de entrada. But isso é para agora. Então, como tudo muda muito, eu não posso dizer que em novembro seja igual, right, Gabi? Because it's changing. The protocols, everything is changing. So, when is this specific departure, Gabi?
November 22nd from Cape Town.
Então, e Isabela, essa saída é um roteiro que começa no dia 22 de novembro. Então, na verdade, é uma época específica. E são how many nights? How many nights?
This 4 nights in Antarctica. Oh, this entire trip is 14 nights.
14 dias, 14 noites, começando no dia 22 de novembro. A gente tem que fazer dessa forma, porque a gente precisa lembrar que a Antártica, ninguém vai no inverno. Então, realmente, só mesmo na temporada de verão. Como levar uma mala, só roupas para 2 climas tão diferentes? Isso não é um problema? The Brazilians, you know, it's a very good question, Claudia, because...
For me, I also can't take just one bag for 2 months. Are you kidding? No, that's what you leave. You can leave your safari clothes at the hotel. You go
great.
to Antarctica, come back. You leave your Antarctica clothes. You take your safari clothes, come back, go home.
Exato, so, Isabela. Você leva deixa uma mala em Cape Town, no Cape Race, e leva a outra para a Antártica, e depois você deixa ela e leva para Botsuana, e quando você volta, que você fica em Cape Town, no final, você tem as duas malas para voltar para o Brasil. Thank you, Gabi. Yes, you can continue.
All right. Let's continue to the wild desert adventure. So here's our second trip. emotional again. Gosh, I love Africa. All right. So the second trip is the wild desert adventure, because we have, we have two kinds of deserts. We have the Arctic, and then we have my favorite desert, which is Namibia, and 3 of our camps there. The format of this trip is very simple. It's this exact same format as the other one. We're using the one and only hotel in Cape Town because they had availability, because it's right after the Christmas holidays. So the hotel is going to be in Cape Town. You're there for 48 hours, the same safety briefing, the same format as a previous trip. You go the same way on a private jet to Wolfsvang and Antarctica, but this trip will be on an Airbus. So it'll be an even larger airplane. It is 6 nights. And the reason that it's 6 nights, you have all of the same activities, and you have the same experience with the penguins and the baby penguins at Atka Bay. But what you have additionally is a trip to the South Pole. Less than 80 people go to the South Pole each year. Most of them are clients of White Desert that do these trips. It's very, very exciting. You see this pole, this, I guess this marker right here in the middle. If you walk a circle around it, you've circumnavigated the entire globe. It's really exciting. You don't go there to see more penguins and wildlife. It's completely bereft. It's just ice and snow. It's to say that you did it. Less than 80 people go every single year. And the reason you need 2 extra days is because a trip takes 2 full days. So you'll leave the camp, Wolfsvang, at the Witchway Oasis, and you're going to fly in a small plane to FD83 Expedition Camp. It's a camp smaller than the main camp. It's their satellite camp. So you have to overnight there, and you have to refuel. Well, it depends. You'll either overnight there or you'll overnight back. It depends on the weather conditions and how it's happening, but you don't spend 2 nights in these camps. You either sleep going or you sleep coming back. If you don't sleep going, you just stop for 1 hour to refuel. And then you fly 2 more hours to the South Pole. All right. And then you spend the day at the South Pole. Then you fly 2 hours and you go back to the expedition camp, and you will spend the night, unless you spent it on the front, but usually you will spend the night after being at the South Pole. All right. And then you will fly back the 5 hours. So it's 7 hours each way. And that's why you need a day and a half to 2 days to do this trip. In addition to this, it's all the same activities, the skiing, the ice climbing, going through the ice tunnels, the bicycles, and then the experience with the penguins is all the same. This is just the additional value add and the reason that you go for extra 2 days. All right. And then you will go back to Cape Town and you will fly commercially into Namibia. If you don't want to fly commercially, we can look at private options. It's a little bit more tricky in Namibia, but we can try to figure something out if that's what your client wants or needs to do. The first camp is Little Kulala. We just rebuilt this during the pandemic. It looks really, really beautiful. Sossusvlei, where it's located, is my favorite place in the world. You can see this sand dune where people walk up it, and you saw it in the video. I did that when I was 16. You hike for like an hour, hour and a half to the top of the sand dune, and then you run down it and your feet fill with sand and you feel like you're on the moon. It's an amazing experience for your guest. Then you finish the hike and there's a beautiful brunch there waiting for your clients. Another really wonderful thing to do in Sossusvlei is to go hot air ballooning over the sand dunes. I think it's probably the most dramatic experience in the world. It's really fantastic. And then the next stop is...
Sorry, and just before you talk about Juanibi and Serra Cafema, eu acho importante a gente destacar que luxo é espaço e localização. E aonde a gente está, no Little Kulala, tem algo muito especial com relação à localização, porque a gente está no gate para entrar nas dunas. Então, os outros hotéis, eles estão no mínimo a 40 minutos de distância. E o gate que eles têm, ele só abre quando o sol nasce. Então, o sol nasce, abre o gate, eles andam 40 minutos para chegar onde a gente vai estar nessas dunas gigantes, e no Dead Valley, toda essa área. Então, a gente vê o amanhecer dessas dunas, só nós, mas ninguém. Então, isso é realmente um intangível, né? São memórias que são criadas nesses lugares e que a gente não esquece e traz com a gente. Eu vi que a Fê Ferry também falou que é o lugar do mundo para ela, e a Namíbia, para mim, foi a viagem. Sorry, Gabby, you can continue.
Yes, everything she said. It's really incredible. It's really wonderful. The second camp will be Hoanib Skeleton Coast. These are the photos on the bottom. So on the bottom right, the Skeleton Coast is where the desert meets the sea. It's extremely dramatic. It's extremely beautiful. You go from being in the desert where there seems like so little life to the ocean, and you see seals. It's absolutely fantastic. You can do a day trip there. To see the Skeleton Coast, most certainly, because you're there for 3 nights. You're at Little Kulala just for 2 days, because 1 full day is plenty of time to do a hot air balloon and do the sand dunes. If you want to go for more time, or your clients want to go for longer, we can change that part of the trip. It's no problem. But Serikafema and Hoanib Skeleton Coast Camp is 3 nights in each. So when you're at Hoanib, you can do a day trip to the Skeleton Coast, and you can do a day of safari. The wildlife, people don't understand that there's amazing wildlife in this area. They're desert adapted, so they look a little bit different than what you're going to see in the rest of Southern and East Africa. The elephants, they're skinny and they're longer. Same with the giraffes, same with the lions. Their bodies have adapted to this environment, and it's the most amazing safari experience. And then the trip ends at Serikafema, which is, I think, the most remote camp in Southern Africa. Ollie, correct me if I'm wrong, or Maria Alice, I think it's the most remote property in Southern Africa. And something that's really exciting here, aside from landscape activities like doing the 4x4 riding and those more adventurous things, you can have a really wonderful, authentic interaction with the Himba community. Having lived across Africa for 8 years, there are actually very few tribes whose culture hasn't been influenced or touched. And it is really an amazingly authentic experience. And your guide takes you and you're invited into their community. It's a very authentic experience. So that's how the trip ends. And then from there, you head back to Cape Town. So that's the end of the Wild Desert Adventure.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
18 nights, right?
19 nights, yes.
19.
Sorry, 18 days, 18 nights, 19 days. Yes.
Perfect. And it's to spend the new year, right?
Yes. It's a very nice amazing Christmas present for somebody.
É realmente uma viagem única, é uma viagem que eu digo, não é uma viagem barata, mas é uma viagem realmente única, essa que a gente combina Antártica, Polo Sul, com os pinguins, com o lodge da White Desert, com os aviões, com a Namíbia. A Namíbia, os lodges que a Wilderness escolheu para essa parte da Namíbia, é só o melhor do melhor. É só o Little Kulala, o Hoanib e o Serikafema. São os 3 highlights da Namíbia. E só para lembrar, tanto em Botsuana quanto na Namíbia, os aviões são da Wilderness Air. Então, são da Wilderness Safaris, ok? Só para a gente relembrar isso. Então, o piloto é o Wilderness Safaris, a gente tem as salas VIPs, né? Mas são VIPs porque as salas da Wilderness nesses aeroportos, pensando que não tem nada, a gente está no meio do nada em Botsuana e na Namíbia, e a Wilderness tem uma sala com água, com sofá, com internet, com lockers, então é um luxo, né? Ter isso, o seu piloto vai te buscar e te encaminhar para o avião e aí para os lodges. Outra ponto muito incrível do Hoanib Skeleton Coast, que é, para mim, o meu camp favorito, ele além de ser lindo, design, é tudo lindo dele, esse full day para Skeleton Coast, a gente eles fazem de uma forma incrível, porque a Wilderness te leva de carro, para vocês verem tudo isso que a Gabi falou. Então, você tem essa diferença dos tons das dunas, das texturas, os rios secos, onde a gente vê as girafas, os elefantes, tudo, os animais adaptados a essa região inóspita, porque é inóspita, o alimento é muito escasso, então eles são realmente adaptados e você vê isso no comportamento deles, e quem é apaixonado por África, conhecer o comportamento desses animais é algo que é incrível, e os guias da Wilderness Safaris, eles são outro highlight, eu falo sempre isso, falava para Caroline, falo para o Oliver, que eles fazem a diferença e eles sabem do comportamento, eles contam isso, e a gente vê cenas, eu vivi cenas na Namíbia que estão comigo até hoje, e que faz com que a gente realmente se sinta a natureza, parte da natureza, quando a gente está ali na Namíbia. Então, ele te leva de carro, a gente vai para Skeleton Coast, ele monta um almoço nessa costa, só a gente, pensa que só tem a gente, não tem mais nada, só a gente. E aí, a gente pensa que a gente vai voltar mais 2 horas de carro, só que não. O Ranger leva a gente até um hangar, e aí tem um avião esperando a gente para voltar para o lodge de avião. Então, a gente vê o melhor por terra e o melhor por ar nesse full day. Então, são surpresas, é realmente maravilhoso isso. Então, eu queria dividir com vocês essa experiência. E eu acho que, assim, no norte da Namíbia, que é Serra Cafema, que faz divisa com Angola, no Rio Cunene, é uma experiência muito única, porque ter essa experiência com a tribo Rimba é algo fascinante, eles são autênticos, é a tribo nômade mais original, assim, a primeira tribo nômade que se tem notícia falando dessa região. Elas e eles são incríveis, e você vê que é uma sociedade que a gente se vê nessa sociedade também, e muito dos valores e das coisas que acontecem. Então, é tudo que hoje a gente fala desse novo luxo, e a gente fala do que o cliente quer ver e viver. Ele não quer mais ser superficial, ele quer imersão, ele quer ver tudo isso, ele quer realmente participar de tudo isso. Então, o Serra Cafema Lodge também foi totalmente refeito, eles colocaram no chão Serra Cafema e reconstruíram, levaram 2 anos. Olha, I think they took 2 years to rebuild Serra Cafema, no? Yes.
Very challenging rebuild. You guys can imagine being in the middle of the desert, no town around, like Gabriela said, and Maria Alice as well. So remote and so far away. It is a magical place, and so different from what Antarctica. It is a very cool trip, and that's probably the Namibia one has been the one we're getting the most request on. It's lovely.
Não, é incrível. Então, o lodge está lindo, lindo, lindo. Eu preciso voltar, porque eu não vi ele reformado. I need to go back, because I didn't see it. E a Marilda está perguntando aqui se eu não recomendo em Sussusley. A gente tem 2 lodges, o Little Kulala, que é um standard acima, né? E o Desert Lodge. O Desert Lodge, eu fiquei, é um lodge que tem mais quartos, é o único lodge da Wilderness que tem mais de 12 quartos. Minha visão pessoal, eu gostei bastante pelas pessoas, pela localização, que também é do lado, então essa facilidade, esse privilégio da gente ser o primeiro nas dunas, é realmente incrível, mas em termos de estrutura, design, não é o que eles vão ver no Ronibe e nem em Serra Cafema. Ele é um pouco mais simples e mais rústico, mas ele tem tudo de bom, os quartos são amplos, as camas excelentes, a comida é muito boa, mas não entra nessa questão tão gastronômica quanto eles vão ter daí no Liroculala, no Ronibe e no Serra Cafema. Mas aí, Marilda, quando a gente fala de um roteiro de Namíbia, dá até para combinar e começar com um mais simples e terminar num mais top. Mas nesse caso do roteiro que a Gabi está apresentando para a gente, são 18 noites, e aí tem que ser exatamente isso, o roteiro é fechado, e ele sai dia, acho que 26 ou 27 de dezembro, 18 noites, Antártica com Namíbia. E exatamente esses lodges, exatamente dessa forma. Mas, se quiserem de outra forma, Namíbia também está aberto para o Brasil e a gente pode ajudar. E eu recomendo muito. Não é o primeiro safari da vida, mas já pode ser o segundo, porque é incrível. Sorry. I love Namibia.
Me too.
Yes, yes.
That's amazing. Thanks, Lisi. And I think you answered the question as well from Marilda Brazil, who asked, what about Safaris White Desert Lodge from and beyond? So Safaris Desert Lodge, Marilda, is an absolutely stunning camp. We work with them very, very closely. So if you look at a map, I will show you separately as well. We've got Little Kulala, which is in a private reserve and has got private access to the dunes, and it is one of the most beautiful lodges in Namibia as well. So with that private access to the dune, we have a very high level of exclusivity, and we are the first ones in the dunes there, which is a big reason why we love Little Kulala, on top of being the top level of accommodation. But for me, you have two good options in Safaris White. For your guests who are looking for the best of the best, you've got Little Kulala and you've got Safaris White Desert Lodge. Two different style and two different feel, but ultimately giving a great experience to your guest. And in reality, it will be availability that will dictate where you will be able to put your guests, because both of these camps are fully booked year round, and it is an amazing experience. For this trip in particular, we booked Little Kulala, but as your DMC, we can book Safaris Desert Lodge or any other lodges in Namibia. And then Hernan asked about aircon. I don't know if you already answered that one, Maria. I think so. Eh? Not yet. All right, cool. So aircon, Little Kulala has got aircon, Hernan, and then Serakafema, because you're right on the river and you're on stilts, so you're not on the ground. You don't actually need aircon. You've got that river right flowing right underneath. Sometimes when it's high water, right underneath the room, but always very close, and a bit of a fresh breeze. So it's really nice and cool. And it's only when you go out in the actual desert that it gets a bit warmer. So that's why you go out early in the morning and late in the afternoon. And then Hoani Biscuit & Coast doesn't have aircon as well, but for similar reasons. You don't really feel a massive heat there. And the rooms are really designed to keep cool and to get your guests comfortable.
And then just one more, Maria Alicia, about them being closed. The trips, the dates and the hotels are closed if you want to remain with a private photographic guide for your whole time in Africa. But if you have a client and they want to do this trip after Christmas and they want to do Antarctica in December, those white desert dates, but then maybe they want to go to Botswana, then Namibia, or they want to do something else that's wilderness, they can do that. But if they leave the trip, they just won't have a private photographic guide. But if it's a family or a group, they'll still have their own private vehicle wherever it is that they go. So you just have to understand that if you don't do the exact wilderness itinerary, you do give up that value add. But if the client insists on doing Botswana or doing a different kind of wilderness safari after Antarctica, it is possible.
Oh, yes. But so you adjust the rate?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Good to know.
We adjust the rate.
Talking about rate, did we talk about rates? I saw Simon is asking about the prices. So just to give you a rough idea, we're going to send it to you as well in PDF format. You're going to get all the information. Clearly, these trips are very expensive, and they are for the guests who are looking for a once-in-a-lifetime unique opportunity that they're never going to have again in their life. The Namibia trip in December is close to $100,000 per person per night.
Yes.
And the other one is
yes,
quite a bit cheaper.
Botswana
It's about 70,000.
Yeah, Botswana is $69,435 per person, and Namibia $98,405 per person.
And we're going to send that to you guys. And obviously travel agents in there and the tour operators, you guys are getting a commission in there, which is very helpful. And the price, we thought, okay, Botswana is quite a bit cheaper than Namibia, so more people are going to go for the Botswana one in November. But actually, people who can afford this kind of thing, they don't care about the price. They just want to have an amazing experience. And funnily enough, it is Antarctica plus Namibia that has been really driving a lot of interest. So if you got the kind of guest who are saying, okay, I know exactly what I have in mind for this, they're going to absolutely love it. They've been dreaming about going to Antarctica and doing something very different from the cruises that go there. Let us know, and then we can arrange it. I was going to say one more thing about this as well. Oh yeah, if you have guests who do not want to go to Cape Town first to start the trip, we chatted with White Desert, and it is possible, but quite pricey to get a departure from the tip of Chile or the tip of Argentina around Ushuaia area, and then fly from there. They will need to charter their own plane there and back, so that adds a bit of a cost, but it is possible as well for our Brazilian guests.
Thanks, Ollie.
Alguém tem mais alguma pergunta, será? Bom, tá todo mundo... a Gabi e o Oliver... A Gabi fala muito bem português, sem sotaque, inclusive. Você não tem nenhum sotaque. Quando você vier para o Brasil, Oli, bring Gabriela with you next year, ok? E aí a gente treina o português. E mais, tá todo mundo dando os parabéns, só reforçando para vocês dois. Oli, they are congratulating Wilderness for this partnership with White Desert. Vocês, como sempre, inovando e trazendo coisas incríveis e impressionantes para a gente. É realmente a lifetime trip. Concordo com a Ana Luísa, concordo com você, Sil, com todo mundo. E, bom, vocês hoje, agora, devem receber via e-mail uma news com o roteiro, com os 2 roteiros, com preço hack de venda e com algumas partes já traduzidas em português na news, e vocês vão receber um release também em português para vocês poderem ter mais informações de cada um dos roteiros e mais informações sobre a Wilderness Safaris e a White Desert, para vocês terem conteúdo. Se vocês precisarem de fotos, vocês também pedem para a gente, mas a gente vai mandar os 2 vídeos também pelo iTravel. Para quem já teve o treinamento de iTravel, esses são vídeos que o sistema automaticamente produz, que eu acho impressionante. Só você fazendo o itinerário, o vídeo já é produzido automaticamente. Então, esse é mais um aplicativo aí que veio para trazer facilidade para os agentes de viagem, e o Oliver vai ter muito trabalho, porque toda hora eu peço para ele dar treinamento de iTravel, porque eu acho realmente incrível. Então, a gente vai mandar os vídeos para vocês, e o que mais precisar, se precisar de fotos de White Desert, eu peço para a Gabi, ela manda um link para mim, especial, e de Namíbia e Botsuana a gente já tem tudo na nossa biblioteca, e vocês vão poder acessar, tá bom? Muito obrigada por todos.
Super obrigada, Maria Alice, foi ótimo. Thank you, Oliver. Obrigada, Gabriela.
De nada.
Obrigado, guys. Obrigado a todos. Thank you very
Gabi.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Oli.
Thank you, Gabi and Maria Alice. I need to learn Portuguese from you guys.
Obrigado, Maria Alice. Obrigada a todos.
Gente. Obrigada.
Thank you. Bye, bye.
Tchau.
Tchau. Uxinha.
Oi!
Para os seus clientes, esse, hein? Que querem.
Tô pensando, mas as crianças ainda são pequenas, né?
É verdade, é verdade.
Tem que ir só os pais agora. Oi, Oliver. Hello, Oliver. Nice to meet you.
Ucha, nice to see you. How is it going?
Everything okay.
That's amazing. When are you coming to Africa?
Oh, I have to go. I don't know yet.
It's going to come soon.
I went to Dumatau in Botswana. It's amazing. The best lodges. I stay in a lot of wilderness lodges in Botswana.
Maria Alice told me. But you know, it was completely rebuilt now, eh? It's looking amazing, even more amazing than before. And what's really quite cool is that we are essentially, we kept the Dumatau feel. Like, how long ago did you go?
It's incredible.
Do you remember?
I have to come back.
Yeah. come and see the new one. It's looking fantastic.
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentations. It's an amazing project. Bye bye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Usha.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.